You're listening to The Jeff Poor Show, your source for informed political talk in Alabama, only on WVNN. Here's your host from Breitbart and Yellowhammer News. It's Jeff Poor.
Hey, welcome to this third hour of the first ever Jeff Poor Show here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. 6 minutes after the hour. Joining us on the line now is State Senator Steve Livingston from Scottsboro. He's, I guess, getting ready to gear up to do all the preliminary things you do when you head into this legislative session. Senator Livingston, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, good afternoon, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Congratulations on your new show. So,
yeah, well, thanks for coming on the big debut here.
We are headed to Montgomery tomorrow to organize and get ready to do the work of the people. So,
what does that look like? I know is it kind of committee assignments and just people feeling out their ways. I know you got some new members coming in. What are these preliminary sort of activities?
Well, initially, in the Senate, there'll be a vote on the body of the vote of the full body for the pro tem of the Senate. And, I think mostly that's probably already well determined, but it's a formality. And then the committee assignments will be made from there. They've pretty well already been discussed, but have not been publicly released yet, I don't think. So we've had an orientation session set back in December, so everybody will know the way around a little bit. But it's just get the feel of being together as a group from there.
Well, we've kind of come into this now, I think, out of nowhere to me. I thought probably through the election cycle, the raising the gas tax was kind of a foregone conclusion. But there does seem to be now that it's the hot button. What's the state legislature going to do? Are you a little surprised that it's kind of taking that turn, that it's now what everyone's talking about? It's not lottery. It's not Medicaid expansion. It's not anything like that. It seems to be gas tax or no gas tax hike.
Jeff, as we ended up last year, we all knew that we would see some sort of infrastructure bill in the first year of the quadrennium. I think there were probably several other things that are maybe just as important as that. We've got some other issues with prison systems and
right.
corrections that we've got to take care of, and they're all equally important. But I do believe we'll see some sort of a lottery bill also. That's very important to the folks that like where I'm at up here in the Three Corners, where we were surrounded by a lottery. And, it was interesting. I think 2 years ago maybe 3 years ago, when we had the last lottery bill that came up to a vote, and I got to my hotel room that night, I turned on the local television station, it's WSFA TV down in Montgomery, and their reporter was actually standing in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, at one of the supermarkets, one of the convenience stores up there. So, I thought they probably could have gone to cross the line to Georgia a little quicker, but they must have wanted to go to Tennessee for some reason. So, but we're going to see that. I don't know what it looks like, and nothing's been pre-filed as of yet. No pre-filing can be done till the organization session's done. That'll be pretty short and quick here tomorrow and Wednesday.
Well, I guess if you do a lottery bill, it's just to okay a vote for the people, but. Are we? And like the big question about the lottery, kind of like what is that going to look like? Is it a paper lottery,
that's
or
the big?
Is there any sense of that?
Does it include what does it include? Does it include any gaming? Does it include an advantage for a growing group over the other? Until you see the actual bill, you don't know what you're looking at. And the same thing with the infrastructure bill.
Well, when we talk about infrastructure, I guess
back to infrastructure, Jeff, we've been transferring some $63 million out of ALDOT into
right.
the Office of the Courts for some number of years. I think that's the first thing that's going to have to be addressed before we even get a bill up in the body, and it may be part of this bill.
We talk about your neck of the woods and infrastructure. Kind of talk. Is there a Steve Livingston wish list, or what needs to be addressed in the top corner over there in Northeast Alabama?
Interesting you say that. Senator Shelby was kind of on his 67 county tour, and he was here Friday morning chatting about things that we needed, and we talked about. He said, "Of course, I've gotten the money. We've arranged to get the money over the past few years to Alabama Highway 35 finished up over there." And we had to remind him there's about a 3-mile segment from the Tennessee River up to the top of the mountain section that hasn't been done. It's 3-laned, and we need to get that 4-laned, and we're just to take care of our farm to market roads from there and our bridges. So,
well, that stretch
of
bridges
that need some repair.
That stretch of 35, that'll be a pretty massive undertaking. If I recall, it's kind of straight up. I guess that's kind of the holdup with it right now.
It has some engineering challenges. Yes, I think that's what Director Cooper would call it. So we've had several slides, and they're looking at how to engineer that. I think they had it in their little plan they had 2 years ago when they tried to get a bill passed. I think you had it in like $40 million, that little 3-mile stretch. So
yeah, because
pretty pricey.
It's going to be pricey, and I would expect it would take at least a number of years to really get that to where it needs to be. While we're on the topic of Jackson County, what's the latest on Bellefonte? I know we hit kind of a roadblock last month on it with the TVA, but what are you hearing on that?
Well, they had a status hearing 2 weeks ago in front of the judge by conference call, and out of the status hearing, I understand the status call came there was a stipulation that was entered into the record that the TVA will not do any thing to damage the plant to keep nuclear development from being able to purchase it. I think that was important to nuclear development to be able to have that put in place. The press is talking about it being not being expedited. I think the stipulation that was agreed to by both parties pretty well took it out of the fact we were pressing hard to get something done. If this is truly an issue with NRC and the fact that it was not licensed, and this ought to be something to be able to work out. As you and I've talked, Jeff, this is a huge economic development project. You can take Toyota, Mazda, Airbus, any of these other projects within Alabama, and this project, if DOE estimates are correct, is going to be about $13 billion. $13 billion. That's not big for Northeast Alabama. That's huge for Alabama, and that's huge for the southeastern United States. Matter of fact, it may be the single largest project done.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize the magnitude of it. Well, tell me a little bit about this. You know, I guess Senator Shelby was up there on his 67 counties tour, and obviously I know Mo Brooks has been very involved. What do you when you talk to these guys in Washington? How are they handling this process?
I haven't talked to Congressman Brooks about it. Senator Shelby was hopeful this thing would work through. We had a brief conversation about it. He indicated that if anybody could do it, the entrepreneur Franklin Haney could do that, and this is part of that. Part of that process and step. Who knows where this will end up with in the court system now, but I feel pretty positive about where we are today. The fact that they stipulated that there wouldn't be any changes in the plant so that this thing could be closed maybe in the future. So
do you feel pretty good about it? I guess given, the politics right now with Trump and a divided government with Congress, but Trump kind of on the receiving end of it, it seems like we might be in a little weaker position with Bellefonte than we were probably in the first 2 years of his administration.
Jeff, I think the important thing that happened inside the administration is to make sure that the DOE loan fund is still available, and it is, and that has been. I think that's not part of the government shutdown. So. The loan fund's been funded and things are in place there. And I think that's ultimately, he's got to have that loan to make this work. I think they want to see where you're going to sell the power to,
right,
or who's going to buy the power. And so it's a kind of catch-22 situation there.
And I
feel very positive about it. I do.
Memphis is kind of still on the table as a potential customer for Bellefonte, you think?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're still on the table as a potential customer for Bellefonte. Memphis is also talking to some other folks, as I understand, about the possibility of maybe purchasing power other places other than TVA.
Yeah.
The simple truth of the matter is if Mr. Haney or Nuclear Development can complete the plant and get the operator in, he's not going to operate the facility himself. He's going to hire an operator. And they get this thing up and operating, and they can put power out on the grid. And if they can put it out on the grid cheaper than anybody else, then somebody's going to buy it.
Yeah,
it's sold every day. It's bought and sold every day.
Well, that's the thing that's
TVA buys it.
The thing that's always confused me about this discussion is, the people who seem to be the primary opponents of this will tell you there's no market for electricity, that this is just a taxpayer boondoggle or whatever. But where we are at, where would we be? I mean, if there's more electricity on the market, then, simple supply and demand, the simple laws of economics would suggest that there would be a either lower cost or, the marketplace would dictate that would be a win for the consumer, right? I'm not really, the nuance of how electricity rates are decided. That's one thing, but to oppose it for that reason, it just never made much sense to me.
Definitely be a win for the consumer. As a matter of fact, in Memphis, I've forgotten the rates, but Nuclear Development says they can save the city of Memphis. I think it's almost $500 million a year, based on what they think they can produce it for. And that's a lot of money.
I think what a lot of people miss, it's not just that aspect of it in the electricity rates, but it's what you alluded to earlier. The big part of this is going to be the economic impact it'll have on Jackson County and in northeast Alabama and the whole state of Alabama. It'll probably spread over into Georgia and Tennessee. This will be a major construction project, and it could really change the whole complexion. I mean, we're not just talking about the plant itself, but you got to have a whole new skilled workforce. You got to have different people living there, and it could really make, it could really change the dynamics of the city of Scottsboro even, right?
It absolutely could. We have seen this before in Jackson County back when TVA was working on Bellefonte. The traffic in Hollywood itself was heavy. There was a red light here in Hollywood. There were businesses that were open then that are not open now. We've seen what it can do and the cars and the traffic, and not all of us local. Several folks decided to drive in and out.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And we'll get you out of here on this. But it just seems, a lot of people are not in my backyard people, but the people up there, to me, they seem like they really want this to happen. They're really pushing for this.
For those of us who have been here for a while, my office is in Hollywood in my business, and I look out my front windows and I see the cooling towers there and in front of me, and I've watched that since 1981, and I've had the highs of this thing's really doing good, and I've had the lows of we're going to shut it down and bought back up, and we're going to build it again, we're going to shut it down, we're going to build it again, we're going to shut it down. And, as recently as 2011, the full board voted to complete Unit 1 after they fueled Watts Bar 2, and then a year later or 2 or 3 years later, they pull the plug on it again.
There's the music.
From a safety standpoint, if it was good enough for TVA to complete in 2015, I think it's good enough for Nuclear Development to complete in 2018.
Senator, we got to go to break, but I want to thank you for coming on the show today. This is Jeff Poore on WVNN.
It's the Jeff Poore Show.